think we're going live. Let's see what happens. This new version of Facebook Live's got some interesting behavior aspects, which we'll get to in a minute about something else, not just Facebook. Welcome to my daily broadcast. This is Barry Selby. My name is Barry Selby, not this is. I'm not presenting myself, I am myself. Welcome to my daily Facebook Live. This is messages from the masculine numbers 82. God, the numbers are getting up there high now. Keep tracking them. Today's topic is actually inspired by a fellow coach's post about his one. The way he posted was, I've read off the screen. Why do some people, correlate drama and dysfunction with love and romance? I have a similar rephrased title because I want to talk about this because it's not spoken about much. So let me start at the beginning. Hi, I'm Barry Selby. As I mentioned, I am a love and relationship strategist, speaker and author. I'm a passionate champion for the divine feminine, and I am a, what's I'm looking for? I'm a strategist, is a good word. I'm a strategist for strong, successful women to find balance in love, life, and romance. And today's topic is for both genders, not just for women. So ladies, don't take offense if I speak to you about it this way, because this is equally true for men, at least where I'm going to go with this. As far as I know where I'm going to go with this, because these are not scripted. So the question at hand, now by the way, if you saw my broadcast yesterday, which is number 81, I spoke to about conflict and how men don't and how they can respond in an awakened way. I'd advise watching that if you haven't already seen it. It's a good piece of content that came through me. Today's one, though, is why a lot of people out there correlate or equate love and romance with pain, suffering, drama, and dysfunction. Actually, I guess drama and dysfunction is better because pain and suffering is not what people want, but a lot of times it's what they end up with. So let me put that on the table. There are various reasons. Some of the most obvious ones would be because that's how they watch relationships unfold on TV and movies and reading books. So they copy that, thinking that's the way it's supposed to be. That's one part of the conversation. And that's easy to talk about. It's what people watch, they learn about it, and they learn bad habits. So it's like, break the habits, you'll be fine. But that's not really where the real challenge is. For most people, and I'll speak about my own story in a moment, I'm going to say it this way. You've been imprinted. That's the blunt way of saying it. You've been imprinted, basically. We all have. The reason being is that when we're born, we are a clean slate. And so what I'm going to say about this is the reason why we... Actually, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let me rewind slightly, back up a couple of seconds. The truth about why many of us have associated or equated or correlated love and romance with dysfunction and drama is because we were raised that way. If you're someone who's experienced more than one time in past relationships a experience of drama or dysfunction or pain or hurt or abuse or something at any level, and it's happened more than one time, I would highly encourage you to look back at your history, and particularly look at your childhood. Not that you had that, but look at what your parents did to each other. So let me put framing on this, so you understand what I'm talking about, because for some of you this might be, oh yeah, of course I know this. For some of you it might be, no, it's not me. And for some of you it might be, oh my God, this is what has been driving me for the last 25, 30 years. If you're in the last group, this will help you. If you're not in those groups, it may not help you, but bear with me. When we're born, yes, we were all born, at least I trust everybody watching was born, except for the bots that might be watching. We don't have a user manual. And we don't know about how life works, unless you, some miracle, came in aware and awake from the other side before you came in on this planet. I'm going to border on the spiritual for a second there. But the reality is this. We come into a couple of people, usually, ideally, who are still married as a man and woman. Well, there's obviously various permutations out there as well. And they become our caretakers for basically 10, 15 to 18 years, depending on when we get kicked out, when we move out. Those parents are our role models. Those parents are our role models because they, without knowing it, are teaching us how to live by how they act. I'll let you sit with that one for a second. So when a parent says to you, do as I say, not as I do, you can't. What they're actually doing is they tell you to do one thing, but they act a different way. Your young mind at the age usually of about 4, 5, 6, or 7 is watching what they do and copying that because you think that's the way it should be, because you look at these big people, the adults, and they are modeling for you, without realizing it, how life is, how they deal with money, how they deal with business, how they deal with career, how they deal with relationships. So the way that your parents model that in front of you, and it's usually not by what they say, but how they act, this is the key, by the way, is how you take on the beliefs about relationship as you grow up. Now, I'll use my own life as an example, which may have been the perfect upbringing in a way, because my parents never argued. My parents were together until my mother passed away in 2012. That was 59 years. So, from the outside appearance, my parents had a perfect relationship, and my upbringing was perfect. There was no abuse, there was no addictions, there was no divorce, there was no cheating, none of that stuff. However, as I said, we are all imprinted by what happens when we're born in the first 5-6 years. Oh, this is fun. My parents, as I said, never argued in front of me or my brother, in front of the kids. And as an adult, or I should say as a teenager and adult, when I was in my dating life, and some of you may have heard this before, I would choose somebody to be in a relationship with, dating-wise, because it was very immature at the time, to say the least, where we would have this very affectionate puppy love energy together, because I was definitely a sort of late bloomer in this conversation, in this context. But at about 1 month to maybe 2 months in, I would leave. And I would leave because my partner, my girlfriend at the time, wouldn't be happy anymore. She'd be upset about something. I didn't know what it was, and frankly, I didn't know what to do about it anyway. But when she was upset, she would shut down, I would leave. Now, the reason why I did this, looking back with very clear 20/20 hindsight, was that I had taken on a belief as a kid, that as my parents didn't argue in front of the kids, is that love and arguments, they didn't fit together. As an adult, when I have an argument, I know what to do with it, because I didn't have that model growing up of what arguments were like. If there was one, how do you resolve it? How do you deal with it? What do you do about it? I didn't know, because my parents didn't show me. In fact, at school, when I was bullied by the kids in high school, I didn't know what to do with that either, because I didn't have any teaching or any training at that time. Now, looking back with 20/20 hindsight, oh, I know so much now, but I didn't at the time. So in the context of relationship, I took on what I saw as my parents' way of being in love, which was they never argued. They were always, and again, this is sort of, let me add one piece. This is what I remember. It may not be what they did, but what I remember was my parents never argued. So that was the rule that I lived my dating life by. If we're in a relationship, we can't argue, because that's not what relationships are about. That's the rules I had. But I didn't know that consciously. I didn't have choice about it, and I didn't do anything about it in the process until I started learning these principles. So, let me talk about you for a second. If you've had, as I said earlier, a repeat experience in relationships that was painful, hurt feelings, upsets, whatever it was, it may have been abuse even, it may have been cheating, it may have been addiction. If it happened more than one time, in fact, if it happened multiple times, which likely it did in past relationships, where the person changed but the pattern stayed the same, first of all, that's a clue. Maybe it's something to do with you. Yes, you. Secondly is, if you look back far enough, particularly to your pre-teens, you might see some parallels and some experiences that match what happens in your own relationships. For example, a different example, not mine. If your parents were, one was always very loud, the other one was very quiet, and they argued with each other, you might have found as an adult your relationships mirrored that. Either you were the loud one or you were the quiet one. Because it's not gender specific. You might have flipped and whichever one was doing which. So, to get back to the beginning question, or I should say the title of this broadcast, which is, why do some people equate love and relationship, or love and romance, with dysfunction and upset? Upset? Drama, that was the word, drama. In this conversation, I would guarantee that if this happened multiple times, it's because they saw that's what their parents did in front of them. If your parents' relationship was dysfunctional and had drama in it, my best guess as an adult is you would do the same thing in your relationships if it happened multiple times. Now, let me give you some of the science behind this, because this actually comes from stuff I've learned over many years, but also I can recommend a book for you about this. By Dr. Bruce Lipton wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. And in it he talks about how Our brain develops in phases over our life. Our lizard brain's born is up and running as soon as we're born. That's like fight or flight, it's built in. The mammalian brain, which is really the the midbrain. Mammalian brain's early. Midbrain, which is the corpus callosum. I can't remember. I don't know my term, so excuse me if my brain terminology is off. But the midbrain is basically the part that is most developed when we're born, to be the part that studies, that learns, that takes everything in. It's like a sponge, basically. That we, when we're born, have this wide open gateway to take all the world in. Like, this is how you do this, how you do this, how you do this, how you do this. We learn everything. Again, watching the big people around us, our adult parents, model for us how to do things. Love and relationships, doing the dishes, how to take a bath, driving a car. All these things we watch them do and we say, that's how I'm going to do it. But it's not conscious. This part here, the midbrain, is our subconscious mind, ultimately. And it's the consciousness that takes everything in like a sponge. This part in the front, this is our frontal cortex, is our conscious mind. That is the wise part. Well, I wouldn't say that, but it's the gatekeeper that basically filters what comes through, what comes in. So when that part comes online, which is around 7 or 8 years of life, that part of us is what discerns and chooses what goes in, what doesn't. Unfortunately, for the previous 6-7 years, our subconscious mind is going, gimme, 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 all the information out there, and stored it away. Then the gate gets closed afterwards, it's already in there. Maybe you've got a light bulb going on right now as you realize what I'm talking about. So as a 7, 8, 9 and upward-year-old person, you make conscious decisions. You see what's good and bad, and you choose accordingly. However, you have at the moment running previous 8 years, 6, 7 years rather, of programming running automatically like tapes in the background that will be telling you stuff that you won't even hear because it's subconscious. When you're doing the experience of going out on dates, you'll be amazed to discover, if this is running still in your life, that each person you meet will be very different. They'll be just the person you want to get to know and you like what they're about. But a few months in, a few years into that relationship, you'll notice that what's happening there will match the tapes you were running from when you were a kid. I can almost guarantee it. This is not a pretty broadcast, by the way, so if you're looking for the highlights and the fun stuff, they'll be tomorrow probably. But this is a wake-up call for many people out there. In my work, in my coaching, which I don't like the word coach, it's more about strategy and guidance, because the thing is, I'm not a matchmaker or a dating coach, because, to be honest, that's the surface. It's like, let me put on another date, another date, another date, and you'll be fine. But as I said, until you rewire the programming inside and change the tape that's running in the background, it doesn't matter what you choose on whichever app you use or dating site, you're going to attract those behaviors in your partner. You're going to attract those same behaviors in your partner. Yeah. So before you spend money on a matchmaker or on a dating site or even a free dating app that you want to swipe and meet somebody on and go spend money on dates, if this has been something that's happened for you more than once, the same patterns again and again and again, I would say the smartest investment you can make is in yourself. Which means to get some support, whether it's from books, from seminars, from a coach, or some other support, then it can change. And since you asked the question, how do you rewire so you don't keep reliving the same lessons again and again? The work I do with my clients, just to give you a very, very brief sketch of it, is first of all we find out what really is running, what wiring is running, and then we go back and really rewire the childhood by basically parenting yourself. That's the simplest way of putting it. Yeah, I do a lot of work with parts integration, NLP, Gestalt and other things too. But really what it is, it's really raising yourself back up from a new place, a more wiser, astute adult place that you are now, so you can go back and change it. That's the simple answer to your question, Jen. And if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, this was first done on Facebook Live, so the question that was asked was, how do you rewire so you don't keep reliving the same lessons over and over again? The thing is, it's not really lessons. That's unfortunate. They're patterns. The lesson is to change the pattern. That's at least my way of putting it. Hope that answers your question for you. So, as I said before, invest in yourself. If you're really not willing to, if you want a healthy relationship, not just dating, you want to go into a deep relationship, but you don't want to keep repeating the patterns from the past, take the time out of a relationship to work on yourself. Get support, read some books. I say get a coach, get someone coaching you who knows this stuff. And yeah, I mean, currently, I do know this stuff. But get some help. Because the thing is, if you're going to keep repeating the same patterns, for example, if you're in a pattern of abuse in past relationships, and you don't want to spend the rest of your life in abusive relationships, I sincerely hope not, then get some help. Now, if you're someone on the other side of the spectrum, the other side of the perspective rather, who when you're in a relationship become the abuser, yes, some of you might be that place too, where you're the one that yells at your partner or emotionally upsets them or physically hits them or bangs things around the house because you don't get your way. If you're tired of doing that and scaring your partner, the same thing applies to you. Get support. Take care of yourself outside the relationship. Rewire the wiring inside, change how you function, and then you can enter a relationship from a holistic and a healthy place. That covers it. I want to make sure I give both sides of the spectrum, because for many people out there, they're looking and saying, oh, I don't have a problem, I don't get abused, but I abuse my partner, or I'm never loyal to them, or whatever that is. If that's one of your programs, and you don't want to keep doing it, because for your partner's sake, I hope you don't, get support as well. Do the work to change your programming, your wiring, so you can actually have a clean slate this time, a more conscious, awakened, loving place to attract what you really want. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm not going to actually do any marketing through this, although I did kind of tell you what I do. But if you're just joining me, please watch from the beginning. I'm actually going to post this and then link it to the post that I saw on my friend's wall this morning, who's a dating expert too. But we have different polarities, so thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, always yes to you too. I'm glad you get to watch from broadcast more recently. And if you didn't see yesterday's, by the way, yesterday was actually kind of a fun one because I didn't know where it was going to go, and it went really deep in a different direction, which was it was number 81, which was conflict. How can a man respond, react, or basically I talks about how the conscious man, or I should say the awakened masculine and the unawake masculine, deal with conflict. That was actually a more entertaining one than this one was. So I'll be back again tomorrow with another topic, I know. And if you know anybody should watch this, please share this broadcast with them on your wall or directly to them, send it a messenger. It'll be on YouTube later on, so you can share it from there too, and it'll be on my website as well as on my business page. So if you want to watch my previous ones, you can watch those on my business page on Facebook or on YouTube under Messages from the Masculine playlist, or on my website, which is barryselby.com/video. It's actually vlog, V-L-O-G, video blog. And that's it. I hope this has given you some food for thought, some grist for the mill, something to chew on, as it were. Because this is big stuff, and I don't normally drop these all the time, but this one was on my plate to talk about today. So that's it. I'm actually still sweating. I was on a bike earlier, so I'm just like cooling down. I want to get this done before it got dark, because the room lighting sucks. Or I should say that the daylight's better. It's more flattering. All right. I hope you enjoy yourself, and take care of yourselves. Even if you are in a relationship or you're not in a relationship, take care of yourself first. Because when you do that, you can take care of other people next. And for that, I thank you for watching, and feel free to share this out. And I'll be back in tomorrow. Take care. Bye.